Another elite intro.
I think
You
one
know,
of these days it might be you guys' little commercial.
with you being such a fan of other programs, I'm sure you are hoping for that, aren't you?
I'm hoping for the commercial. I wouldn't agree with the other programs part.
I don't know about that. Yeah, no, that would be nice. I mean, the production budget will be very minimal. It'll probably be about an iPhone production, and I don't even know what it's going to look like. But it would be interesting. But elite intro, maybe we'll make it a little better. Um, but what do you think about the old Sooners this weekend, huh? Is that defense for real?
I think so, dude. So I'm not gonna lie. On Saturday, I just decided to make it a rewind to college, and I had a buddy over pretty early, and just started watching all the football games. Started drinking, and then by the time Oklahoma game, I was relatively fine most of the day, but I was watching it on my phone because it was on ESPN Plus, and then watching TV games on the TV in the living room. So it was like up and down, and I feel like I missed some stuff. So I rewatched it yesterday. That defense was so fun to watch. I mean, I got to skip all the commercials and all the shit in between, but dude, they move so fast, and I knew what Danny Stutzman's line was after the game just because I looked at the box score. But when you watch him, like, he very easily could be the Butkus Award winner at the end of the year. Like, he's one of the best linebackers in the country, and the unit as a whole looks good. I'll go ahead and admit right now I was wrong about Justin Harrington. He is quite a good player this year, and we'll see where he lands. I know some people at the beginning of the year were saying first round draft pick. I don't know about that much because he hasn't shown that kind of production over a long period of time. But if he continues this just for this season, I could see him going like third, fourth round off this year's production. And then, I mean, the offense was spotty. I think they had Tawi Walker showed out. People are talking about Marcus Major. I mean, personally, I think Marcus had a good game, but Tawi Walker was the highlight on the offensive side of the ball.
He definitely was. He had 21 carries for 117 yards. He looked good. He made some great runs as far as cuts and vision on in the field or on the field. He looked good. Talking about the defense, with Danny Stutzman, he looks like he definitely picked up a couple pieces of hardware this week. He just looked like he was fresh. He was ready to play. He knew where he needed to be. And, I understand that it's SMU, and SMU wasn't ranked coming into this competition, or into this game. There's a reason why the ACC took them. And you looked at their roster. I was like, oh, there's LJ Johnson from Texas A&M. Jordan Hudson, once committed to Oklahoma. And then you also had Jalen Knighton, once committed to Oklahoma, who transferred from Miami. They've got Power 5 talent on that team. So it wasn't like Oklahoma's playing. Are they an inferior team as far as the talent? Yeah, but it's a lot better than Nebraska last year, or UTEP, or Kent State, or even Tulsa. I would argue as well. That'll be coming up this Saturday. So Oklahoma played a quality opponent, and they only allowed 11 points. And if the defense didn't play the way they did, I'm not sure that Oklahoma would have won. I mean, I know it was a 17-point game. It seemed like as soon as the offense needed to make the plays, they did. And that's a game that Oklahoma probably more times than not would have lost last year. When they had to have it, those gotta-have-it moments, they weren't able to deliver last year, but they were able to deliver this year. Well, this game. I can't say this year. We're into week 2 right now, or I guess going into week 3.
Yeah, and what impressed me watching it back is, I mean, again, it's going to be mainly focused on Danny Stutzman and the linebackers, but I don't know. I don't want to say SMU pulled out all the stops with their offense, but they were really trying a lot of things out. Some trick plays. There was one where I think it was the running back or receiver was like ducked down under the center trying to do like a fake with Preston Stone going one direction and seeing if everyone would follow to open up the field on the other side. Danny Stutzman followed that ball perfectly. Ended up being a tackle for loss, I believe. If not, he might have gained 1 yard. Like, these guys are breaking hard on the ball. And the play by Key Lawrence to force the fumble, like, that was probably SMU's most explosive play, and it ended up being a turnover because of just how tough they are. They're better. You can tell they're better fundamentally, and they all understand where they need to be. Like, there's no confusion. And I don't know. I'm sure that all of them being there for some time now, but even Peyton Bowen, a guy that's new to this team, he has elite talent. We all knew it going into the year. I personally didn't think he would contribute this much this fast because, assuming he's needing to get some reps, more reps in practice, figure out where he needs to be, get a better idea of the scheme. He's picked up everything so well. The pass interference that was called on him in the end zone, I think, was a little bit of BS. It looked like he played that near perfectly, as well as anyone could. That dude's going to be special, and there's a good chance we see a lot of him this weekend.
And you talked about Justin Harrington. I'm not sure that he's going to play this weekend because I think he's a little banged up. So who do you think plays that cheetah position? Well, you think Deshaun McCullough is going to play. But he won't exclusively play that position. I think you're going to see Peyton Bowen get some time there as well. And he's going to see the field. I mean, it's Tulsa, so naturally you would think that he's going to get the opportunity to play. So with that, you bring him in, let him play that position, get a feel for it. He made great plays. I mean, Peyton Bowen, there's a reason he's a 5-star player. Not many 5-stars, and I know it's against SMU, but SMU's a quality opponent. Not many 5-stars come in and compete at that position and then actually contribute. I'm not saying he's going to start, but he's definitely, McCullough's not going to play the entire game.
And there's a chance McCullough doesn't play much. Like, they might put him out there just because he hasn't gotten many reps and, doing some rotating once maybe the game feels a little bit more secure. But I wouldn't be surprised if Peyton Bowen's the guy starting at the cheetah position on Saturday, or just starting somewhere, because like you said, he's being moved around quite a bit. Sometimes plays a little bit of safety, plays nickel occasionally, comes in and plays cheetah. Like, that dude is very good. The guy that I was watching the football games with, he's a Alabama fan, and they got Caleb Downs in the last cycle. He was technically the number 1 safety in the 2023 class, and during the Oklahoma game, and while their game was going on simultaneously, I just kept telling him that our 5-star safety was better than their 5-star safety. And I think he proved that there was a very real argument Peyton Bowen could have been the number 1 safety in the 2023 class. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, but he's making some big plays for Oklahoma. And imagine what he's going to be like 1 year from now, when he probably puts a little bit on more muscle, knows the playbook a lot more, might be just rotating between 2 positions rather than 3. I mean, there's a lot for him, a lot of room for him to still grow. He's only 18.
Only 18. I mean, it sounds like Jason Tatum. He's only 19 years old, and he's already playing in the NBA, and he's been 19 for the last 4 years. But, and also, Jen commented on it. Kip Lewis looked good, too. Mm-hmm. He was flying around the ball. Even he got some compliments from Brent Venables after the game about, that kid's going to be special type deal. You look at the way he was playing and the way he was tackling. Honestly, everyone could tackle. Compared to last year, they weren't tackling well at all. And I didn't see how many missed tackles they had this week, but it's not many. I want to say maybe it was 4 or somewhere around there.
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4. It wasn't many. I think so far through 2 games. I heard it in the press conference earlier. Like they've missed like 30 tackles last year, opposed to this year I think it's less than 10, just through 2 games alone. That's how much they were struggling with tackling last year.
Yeah, and it's not even like it was just the basic stuff last year, and they've cleaned up the basic stuff. And granted, I'm trying to not overreact to, it is only game 2, and we're about to go into, game 3 against Tulsa. Is this for real? I do this every year. But this feels different to me. I feel like this team, and we're talking about the defense. I also want to talk about the offense. Andrew Anthony is that guy, and he looks great. Jalil Farouk made the big play when we had to have it. It was nice to see him show up. No one on the offense looked really explosive, or put up a ridiculous stat sheet just because no one was really, we didn't score much. We only put up 28 points. I expect that to change this weekend. I think they'll put up a lot of points. But Andrew Anthony, I'm feeling pretty confident that he'll be at least number 2, if not number 1.
I think he's starting to show it. He's the number 1 guy in this receiving core. At least the guy that's going to be making the most plays. Maybe it's because Jalil's getting a little bit more attention from the opposing defenses so far through 2 weeks. But I think other years that we've done this podcast, I would be the first one to say, let's hold our horses. If you or Brandon were saying, like, we're something through 2 games. But I'm with you. Like, this feels different. And when you look at the schedule, there's not really like an opponent outside of Texas, because they did have a good game this weekend. You got to put a little bit of respect on that the Red River rivalry, but it's also Red River, so anything can happen that day. Like, you don't really have an opponent where you're too worried through how everyone has looked again in 2 games. Like, TCU doesn't really, like, at this point, I don't think they should scare anyone. I still think just because Kansas has a pretty fast offense, but even still, like you saw this week, they're playing a fast offense with a quarterback that is able to get out of the pocket, and the linebackers are getting after him. The defensive line, while they might have not been, putting up a ton of stats on the stat sheet, they were constantly in his face. And if you watch that, they came from one specific side of the field, from the right side, every single time. Because I don't know, maybe they scouted him and they noticed if you gave him that side, he's going to be able to make a lot more plays, force him to flip his hips the other way. I thought it was impressive. This offensive line is going to constantly make pressure. They might not get home every time, but they're going to get in that guy's face.
And that's all you can ask for. And also, when the coverage is better on the back end, your pass rushers can tend to look a little better as well and get the coverage sacks. And that hasn't been a thing for Oklahoma in a long time, is getting coverage sacks. I mean, it's normally you got about 2 seconds of coverage and then the ball's going out for 10 to 15 yards. So, with the way that Oklahoma looked, it feels different. Maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid and I'm trying to be a sunshine pumper. But I agree with you. The schedule isn't hard. You look at what they've got. I think ESPN's FPI favors Oklahoma in every game, at least after week 1 they did. They might not now against OU and Texas. But if not, they're favored to go 11-1 this season. And 11-1 gets you in the Big 12 championship game, I would imagine anyway. But as far as, some of the takeaways from this game are a little bit of the injuries. We talked a little Justin Harrington. He seems to be a little banged up. Gentry Williams did go down. I mean, I'm sure he's fine and will play. So he was a little nicked up. It's just those things. And, Yeah, Lloyd. It seems like Josiah Wagner is still hurt, and he's getting back from whatever he's got. So, I mean, the defensive back room is going to be the revolving door, but it seems like, and this is the term that they've all been using, is the competitive depth, and I think there's some truth to that, and I think it's going to be on display as we go, get through Tulsa and go into the Big 12 play of, opening up in Cincinnati. I think you're going to see that competitive depth. And I mean, Harrington might be back for that. He might not be, but still, it's having Makari Vickers there, having Josiah Wagner can come back, and Kenai Walker, and all these guys. I'm going into the Tulsa game, or honestly any other game, I'm not overly concerned. Like, I just feel like Harrington's hurt, but I feel like, okay, McCullough and Peyton Bowen can handle that. Like, I'm not like, it felt like when Billy Bowman went down last year, or when the injury bugs got Woody Washington, we're going to be a train wreck. I don't feel like that though.
Oh, and you just mentioned him there at the end. Woody Washington is an Iron Man for that defense. He only missed 2 snaps the entire game, and I'm sure that was just to take a quick breather. And he played well. Like, he tried his hardest to get a pick at one point. He jumped what looked like 7 feet in the air to go after a ball. I mean, I don't think he had much of a chance, but he really wants it. Like, he's on a mission this year to prove that he is one of the better corners in this upcoming draft class. It won't be surprising if he's gone after this year, but I mean, we look back at last year, the end of last year, obviously not a great year, but talking about all the guys we were going to lose, like Woody Washington would have sucked to lose, but after this year, I think he's done what he has to at Oklahoma. Feels like it's time to go to the draft. Best of luck to him. There's a lot of guys, like you said, in the defensive back room where you have the depth that you're not worried about who's next after your best guy leaves to go to the NFL. Offense, again, trying to get back to them. The offensive line clearly wasn't as good as week 1. Passing game was kind of bad overall, but Dylan Gabriel did what he could when the opportunities came up for him. Not a lot of yards, but 4 touchdowns. Can't complain. And then at some point, I would assume they're going to let Jackson Arnold sling it. This just taking hits to run as a quarterback doesn't seem like it's going to be the best thing for him health-wise, but it does add a different dynamic to the offense. It basically reminds me of Baker Kyler when they would take Baker out for 1 or 2 plays just to make a big play on the ground. And we haven't seen that big play yet from Jackson, but we know that his legs, he can do it. He's no Kyler Murray with his feet, but it's not like he's a slouch when it comes to running the ball. So I would like to see him throw it, though. Maybe like a trick play or an RPO, and he actually pulls it back and throws it downfield, because that would get, obviously, I think that would make everyone excited, talking as fans, but I think that would also give the defense so much more to think about when you do bring him in. Like, then you got to worry. I think right now you kind of just assume, let's stack the box, and we'll just make sure he doesn't run by us, get that 1 yard or 2 that they need.
It almost feels like they're setting it up to do that, where they're only showing on film, the rushing, basically just running the ball up the middle each time. I did feel like, man, if you're going to bring him in by the 3rd time, or what, I forget, it was probably the last time they did it. I remember I was like, man, if I were SMU at this point, all you've ever shown me is just running. I'm going to stack the box, and then that's the one he got stopped on in 4th and 1. I mean, obviously they're going to sell out to stop the run if that's all you're going to show, and it's kind of easy to predict. At that point, it would have been nice to have a little bit of a play fake, and then you probably would have gotten to bite pretty hard on that play action. So, again, I don't want to say that Oklahoma was holding things back, because I don't think they really were, because I think SMU is that quality of an opponent there's just sometimes where I just still feel like that they're trying to figure it out when it's right to call what play and what's circumstances. And I certainly hope they're saving the plays and they're keeping the playbook at a minimum. And maybe it was whenever the game got close, they finally opened it up and they went after it. Maybe I'm being optimistic there. You can hope. But that might be a little. I just don't know what behind it. What are
you blowing into your mic for?
I'm testing it out. How are we doing? What are we discussing?
Talking about the offense for
this last weekend. Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I would have liked to score more than 28. I feel like it wasn't. I didn't personally feel like it was a great outing from the offense. What did you guys think?
No. I mean they did enough. It wasn't when they
covered.
had to have it. Yeah,
they covered. They did. When the game was 14-11, they made plays when they needed to. They scored to make it 21-11. Then the defense forces the turnover, and then they put the game on ice. So when they had to have it, they had it. But I mean, outside of that, they had one touchdown in the first quarter when Andrew Anthony got just wide open. And then it's not what I expected.
I think SMU is also a better defense than we anticipated. There might not be, a kind of defense that Oklahoma currently looks like they have, but they're not Arkansas State. Like having probably the wrong expectation of us thinking that Oklahoma's going to score another 70 plus, unrealistic. But I mean, if they would have scored one more touchdown, what was the end of score was 28? 28-11. They would have scored one more touchdown. None of us would be complaining about a 35-point outing.
Yeah, no. Jimmy the Dolphins, that was awesome. Just saw that comment there, but that was a fun Sunday for us. 35 would have been nice. 42 would have been nice, but good teams win, great teams cover. Oklahoma did cover.
Yeah, and Brandon, what I pointed out, and you mentioned it too, is the difference between this team and this year and last year is the fact that when it's the gotta have it moments, when they gotta make the plays, they didn't do that last year at all. And I know you didn't watch all the games, but it was like every time they found a way to lose the game, no matter what. And when they had to, actually go score some points, they did. So there's definitely a difference in this team, but it wasn't a great feeling. It's like that. When it went 14-11, I remember thinking to myself, I was like, here we go again. I mean, are we really going to go down this road?
I had, I think naturally you have those bad feelings, but that was the worst pass interference call I think I've ever seen live. And again, live it doesn't look like it's pass interference. Everybody I talked to obviously is wearing their crimson and cream glasses and stuff in the stadium and stuff. But so from watching it on TV was that because you guys corrected me last week when it looked like Reggie Pearson with that roughing hit, it didn't look too bad. How did that pass interference call look on TV?
What was it?
Peyton Bowen one?
Yeah, the Peyton Bowen one that set up their only touchdown.
I talked about it earlier. It looked like a very clean play. Like he didn't look like he hooked his arm and like manipulated it with how the receiver was gonna go up for the ball. He might have had his arm there for a second, but it looked like it came out while he was trying to reach up.
Well, and what's also interesting is how about that sideline interference? Don't you normally get a warning?
Venables kind of poked at that too in the post-game press conference. He said he was in the way, but yeah, he also mentioned I guess I don't deserve a warning.
Yeah,
I think most of the time you do.
I've never heard of no warning and just go straight to the penalty. And then also it's just the pass interference on Kanik was fair earlier in that drive.
Mm-hmm.
But that one against Peyton Bowen, it almost seemed like the refs willed them to that touchdown drive and definitely aided them. So it's hard to play against 12.
I think Jaren's PI was more like inexperience. He's still trying to get his feet wet and totally understand the position, because the commentators were talking about how he was in perfect position. Like all he had to do was flip his hips and he would have been there to at least prevent the quarterback from throwing it or even get the pick. But because he was right on his hip, then he felt the need to have to hold him.
Have you all talked about the play that Billy Bowman made, or not Billy Bowman, that Key Lawrence made defensively, or just Danny Stutzman all day? Yet,
we've been talking about that. You go after it.
Yeah, I mean the Key Lawrence play was big because I think at that point in time it was, I can't remember the exact score situation, but it kind of that was a big play for them. It would have set them up in plus territory. In Oklahoma's way, Key Lawrence knocked the ball out. It was kind of crazy how he did it. I mean, he just it looked like he just slapped the ball. Like he didn't even really go for the tackle or anything, knocked it out. But I think what's not getting talked about enough on that play is Billy Bowman keeping the ball in bounds there for Stutz to recover. And then it's very fitting that Stutz did recover because it felt like every single tackle, at least on the intercom, Danny Stutzman in on that tackle. Danny Stutz, he was all over the field. And then, he won whatever it was, Defensive Player of the Week or whatever. Just thought those plays needed to be highlighted. That one play specifically, and then just Danny Stutzman for just the game he had.
Yeah.
It was 14-3 at that point, and it was like, okay, great. SMU's driving down the field. It's the, what is it? I'm guessing. I'm trying to look at it. It was in the third quarter, I want to say. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, it was 14-3, and that would have made the game a lot more interesting.
Just a real heads up play to see him kind of carrying the ball, not super tight or not high and tight, and he just punched it out. And like I said, Billy Bowman, I don't think he's getting enough credit there for keeping the ball in bounds, because that was, if Billy's not there, I think the ball's going to roll out of bounds and it's all for naught. But just an all around great defensive play, started from Key, and then the team just rallied around it. It was awesome to see.
Yeah, Ted Roof basically said the same thing. Like, Key made a fantastic play, but if it wasn't for all the guys getting to the ball and rallying, that's basically just a pageant show that didn't turn out OU's way. But yeah, it was huge. Okie Trey's brought up a good point. I think we kind of mentioned it earlier. The offensive line just didn't look good. And this defensive line for SMU isn't terrible. Again, like they're decent front. They're not going to be the best that we face. Again, he mentioned Texas is probably going to be the best defensive line that Oklahoma is going to have to go up against. So they're going to need to figure that out. Walter Rouse played a decent game, but he said to himself he should have played better. Savion Byrd was struggling there for a little bit. So they just got to figure it out, especially in the interior.
I think part of that comes down to, because I agree the offensive line didn't play well, and Jeff Levy said it himself in his most recent presser, they've got to get Gavin Sawchuk and Javante Barnes going. I think once you get a run game moving, and they're not, then they don't have to sell out for the runs or pass plays, and then the offensive line can start playing better too. But they've got to get a run game going. I feel like we didn't run the ball very well against SMU, and that contributes to all of that too.
I mean, I think Tawny Walker did pretty darn good. I mean, he ran for nearly 120 yards.
I don't know. It's harder to look at. I'm kind of excited to be able to watch the next couple games on the TV screen.
On the TV.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else on this game, but I'm excited for this next one.
The final point I have is the fact that Oklahoma had 9 penalties for 88 yards. I
think most of them came on that one drive, the scoring drive.
Yeah, I mean, it did, but also, I mean, there were times where they were getting called for holding and, things like that. Nearly 100 yards of penalties, a lot of times in those close games will make you lose. And I'm just, those dumb penalties and things like that have to be cleaned up before you get into Big 12 play, because especially going against Texas, it could cost Oklahoma, and it's just got to get cleaned up. I mean, there's never really an excuse to have nearly 100 yards of penalties in a single game. A lot of times that you lose because of that.
I'm with you there. I guess we'll see. The running back situation is interesting. I think it's going to be a point until we see more Javonte and or Sawchuk. But it's going to be tough to pull Tawee Walker out of the game if he's having games like that. He might have not had, 100 yards on 10 carries or whatever, but 20 carries, almost 120 yards, and he was good in the pass game too.
Yeah, he averaged 5.6 a carry. I'm pulling the stats up here. He had 21 for 117.
I think he had 3 catches for 30 yards or something like that.
3 for 25. Yeah, he was pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to pull that guy. So maybe they make it 3 running backs. I don't know. We'll see who they are, but Tawee Walker seems to be solidifying a big role in the run game for this team.
And it could happen to a better guy too. I mean, him walking in with his kid and stuff like that, and coming from JUCO and the way he's playing. I mean, he deserves it. I do find it interesting. I know Gavin's coming back from an injury, and I'm more just shocked that what's his name? Gosh, Javonte Barnes is not getting more looks. And I'm not saying that he won't, because it seems like Levy says they want to get him going. It'll just be interesting to see. I mean, there's only so many handoffs to go around, and it seems like Tawee Walker, like you said, is getting himself and securing himself a big role.
That's basically it for me for this football game. The defense hopefully does it every game.
Defense plays like that all season, you're going to have a chance in almost every game.
Brandon, do you remember most of the game?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I was pretty loose at the game. The coolest thing ever happened, guys. There was this dude, probably, I think he just graduated recently, recognized me walking out of the stadium, and it was like, Brandon yelled at me, and I was like, who the hell is that? Turned around, it was some just dude. I was like, yeah, I watched the show. Good show, y'all are fun. And I was like, hey man, that's it. That's all. That's the whole story. But but I thought it was cool.
So what you're saying is you're big time.
I'm saying we are big time.
Shout out that guy.
Shout out that guy. Yeah, I got his name and number. I told him I'd send him a shirt.
Sounds good. How do we do on our bets? I had to check it last night.
I went 3-3.
2-4.
I went 3-3 the past 2 weeks. So if you follow my bets, you're bound to go 500. I'm 6-6 on the year.
I am in the dumpster right now. So pretty much you just need to fade me, and you'd be sitting pretty, because I am now 3-9. So please.
Yeah, you're having a rough start to the year there, partner.
Mm-hmm. I went 6-5, improving my record to 10-11, and I'm not gonna cuss. Freaking Utah.
Did you have that? Was it Utah -8?
I had Utah minus. It's the same thing. Utah -7.5.
I did
Those
too.
dickheads won by 7.
Yeah, I the whole time I was watching. I was watching the game at O'Connell's, and I was talking to Ben, and I forgot the line of it, and I thought it was Utah -7. So when they scored there, I was like, hell yeah! At least I'm gonna push there. And then he looked it up, or someone looked it up, and he was like, it's actually 8. And I was like, go for 2. But,
yeah. And then I had Washington only won by 33. Their line was 34.5. The one weird bet I took, bro, the Jacksonville State, they were plus 14.5. Only lost by 14. So I guess it came back in my favor for that game.
Who were they playing?
I don't remember. My only reason for taking it was because Pat McAfee has been talking up how they're being coached up by Rich Rodriguez, because that was his head coach back in his West Virginia days. So I was like, you know what, got to follow the people that know this guy. I mean, he lost, but only by 14, not by 15.
So it's a moral victory.
It's a moral victory, or at least in the betting lines, it is. Then what else did I lose?
You won the Iowa bet total.
Hell yeah, dude! Never bet the over
easy.
with Iowa.
Yeah, I picked Iowa at -4. That hits. Iowa State is very, very similar to Oklahoma State, in which the state school doesn't win. Or I guess they're both state schools, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, then Oklahoma State or Arizona State decided to play the OSU rule against them. They were up. Okay, this is where my mind starts to get a little foggy for the day. But I'm pretty sure Arizona State was up at halftime, and then they just never scored the ball again. They just stopped at 15.
I'm pretty sure you're right, but I picked Arizona State plus 3.5 in that one, and at one point it was like 15-7. I was feeling good about it, and yeah,
I picked the money line. Tough day. Texas Tech almost beat Oregon. I mean,
yeah,
it's a real place.
Did you guys get to watch that game at all? Because like we were, by the time we got to Ocon's post game, we were deleted. It was me, Ben, and Emily. We were bad. Like it was all of us were stumbly, and we saw like they were showing the highlights and stuff around the country, or we thought it was over. It was like Oregon or the Tech was up like 28-10 or something, or 28. They were up big, if I remember correctly, and we thought they won. And then we got excited about it for some reason. And then they flipped around and said final score here. And we're like, what? No,
Yeah.
What? Why?
Yeah, it would have been nice to see Texas Tech win there. Yeah, Jalil Farquaad definitely needs to be involved a little bit more. I can't remember. Someone said that on the broadcast, I thought. Or somewhere. But yeah, they messed up they butchered his name bad.
Mm-hmm.
They said Jalil Farquaad. That's
Yep.
like isn't Lord Farquaad the guy on Shrek?
Yes. I appreciate the $5 for sure on that.
Yes, thank you. People are asking for
the score was disgusting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Here, real quick. And Okoye, people want to talk about Okoye real quick. He's announcing next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow. So, and it's going to be in Bixby.
Bixby.
Yep. All right. Kind of just remembering things here. I still think Oklahoma wins or is leading there. For whatever reason, some people think Texas is leading, and I know that Oklahoma had an impressive defensive game, and then Texas did as well. So I'm sure there is going to be a lot of back and forth leading up to that decision. But we had him on a week ago to the date, and it seemed like Oklahoma had made a big splash during his visit at the Arkansas State game. I mean, he, at the end, right before he left, he said, check out the hat, and it's Edgeman. And then guess what? What hat Todd Bates and Chavis were wearing at the Nigel Smith commitment. Pretty similar hat. So, I mean, again, it's just a piece of clothing, but it seems like Oklahoma has solidified somewhat of a lead. Maybe not a big lead, but a lead that they just need to make sure they keep up until that date.
I mean, the way I look at it, he wasn't originally slated to announce his commitment until mid to late October. Mm-hmm. He then took an official visit to Oklahoma, and he went on here and told us, basically, whenever I'm ready to make the decision, I'm going to make the decision. Mm-hmm. And he said to look at the hat. He then announces his top three, announces his commitment date. Seems to me, piecing this together, I'm not a detective, contrary to popular belief. It seems
just
like
a doctor.
Yeah, it seems like putting all the pieces and clues together, it seems like Oklahoma's the pick and the trip to Austin is not happening. Oklahoma's been recruiting him the hardest, and it seems like he's extremely happy with Oklahoma. Man, I feel good. I mean, Oklahoma's basically come out of nowhere in the last 3 months. They were in no man's land in his recruitment, and now are at the top. I mean, we've talked to him. It just all the tweets. It screams Oklahoma to me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm still riding Oklahoma despite Texas coming off that game. But I mean, have you guys talked about how bad Alabama is this season yet?
No, we haven't talked about any
other college football game. Just our bets when you've been here.
Yeah.
Well, we can go there.
I got a plug. Last live stream, we crossed 5,900. We're just shy of 5920, so 5918. That's where we're at right now. We're 82 subscribers away from 6,000. I'm not saying we're getting it tonight.
Or we could.
Start the quest.
Or I mean, if you guys want, yeah.
When we got over 100 people, 120 something people in here, I'd imagine a good portion of you are already subscribed, or I hope you are. But if you aren't, hit the like button and subscribe. Help us get to 6,000. That's a big milestone for us. It's easy and free. Do that and follow us on our socials. So I had to plug that. Now we can talk about other games.
Also, real quick, because I keep seeing the same thing about Okoye going to the Tulsa game. If he does end up going to the Tulsa game, we got to realize that Oklahoma cannot have contact with him because that's a Tulsa home game. Oklahoma can't be recruiting at Tulsa. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the rules, but
yeah, I mean he can go. He can go enjoy the game, talk to his friends, but the coaching staff cannot be recruiting him.
Yeah. But I mean, I was trying to segue into the Texas-Alabama game by saying Alabama sucks this year. Obviously, I think that's a stretch for me to say they suck. I was a little shocked to see Texas beat them, obviously. But is it unfair to say that this could be a down season for Alabama? I mean, if you just look at the quarterback position, it seems like they don't know what's going on there.
I think Tommy Rees is not that good of an offensive coordinator. Maybe the Jalen Milroe's not that guy when it comes to being a quarterback. He doesn't seem like he's that bad. He just, like, it seems like it's a Jalen Hurts situation. Like, the team's pretty similar overall. They don't really have a star receiver. If you think about, like, what they had whenever they were getting, they got to the national championship with Tua and Jalen and Mac Jones. Like, you had Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith. Who was the other guy that was there in that trio?
Henry Ruggs.
Henry Ruggs. And they had, and then before then, like, you had Amari Cooper. I mean, they've had first round level wide receiver talent, and I don't think you can really see that or say that any of these receivers on the Alabama squad are that level of receiver.
I think Alex brought up a good point here in the comments. Do you guys see this? Because Texas should have beat Alabama last year. They played them very competitive there down in Austin. It was the last game I got to watch before I left for Space Camp. But that was a very competitive game that Texas should have won. And he's right; they ended up dropping 4 after that. I think I know what he's going with this, and I agree with him. I don't think it's time to jump on this Texas hype train. Despite beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa. It is probably the most impressive regular season win maybe ever because they did beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and that just never happens. But I think that Alabama is a little bit down this year just because what you mentioned there too, Hose. I brought up Milrose, but like we seem to always know every single player on Alabama, on their offense, on their defense, because they're just always that good. And you just know everybody on the field for Alabama. It seems to not be the case this year. Their best player, the dude's name was Kool-Aid.
He is really good, though.
He is really good. And everyone knows Kool-Aid just because of the name. But, I don't know if Tommy Rees is the problem. It seemed like Alabama was going back and forth of, they didn't know what they've got. They brought in the transfer from Notre Dame, Tyler Buckner, to compete with Milroe. And ultimately, Milroe definitely won the job. But I think you just heard, and everything that's going into the season was talking about Alabama's going to get back to the rushing attack, running the ball, 2 tight ends, and kind of while everyone's zigging, they're going to zag basically and go back to the smash mouth style football. And I think Alabama's going to be fine. And again, the SEC is probably going to get 2 teams in the playoffs, and Alabama very well might be that second team. But again, Georgia hasn't looked that impressive either. They're trying to figure everything out. I wonder, and I agree about not buying in the Texas hype. Texas has players all over the field. They're getting a ton of hype. Them and Colorado are probably the 2 most hyped teams at this point. And we know what happens to these teams, especially coming off that emotional win. Texas is celebrating like they won the Super Bowl or won the college football playoffs. And now here we go. Now you got to get ready. You just won your Super Bowl, but yet you just played your second game of the season. And I just think we've seen Texas with a bunch of hype in the last 10 to 15 years. What happens? Typically not good. And they start to get a little ahead of themselves. I would not be surprised if you see this weekend, they come out and they are sluggish. They play down to the level of competition against Wyoming. I'm not saying that they're going to lose to Wyoming, but what I'm saying is they could definitely lose September 23rd on the road at Baylor.
Yeah.
At night, Baylor, I know, it has not been their best.
They looked a lot better this weekend against what I believe to be a pretty good Utah team. Granted, still no Cam Rising there for Utah. I think the game's a little different if Cam Rising's playing. But that Utah team minus Cam Rising beat the brakes off Florida. And again, I don't think Florida's that good either. But I mean, they did. They did beat the brakes off Florida without Cam Rising, and then struggled against a Baylor team without their quarterback.
Yeah.
Yep. The Colorado game was actually pretty fun to watch. I know you guys hate them, or Brandon hates them with a burning passion.
I can't stand Colorado.
Yeah, it was actually pretty entertaining. At the beginning was kind of boring. Seemed like they both looked like very average teams, and then something sparked. I think it was actually the Nebraska quarterback was prone to just giving the ball away. Had 3 fumbles on his own, and then threw a pick that I remembered. I stopped watching because it like after those, I think Colorado went up big pretty quickly. Like after they scored their first touchdown.
The Texas hype, at least you can make sense of it. If any team in the country week 2 goes into Alabama and beats Alabama by 10, they're gonna get a lot of hype. Colorado beat the shit out of 2 really bad college football teams, and people are acting like they're the best, like they're the best thing since sliced bread. Like they're never gonna lose, and that drives me insane.
I don't mind Colorado. I don't have that deep burning passion, of not caring for them. Jose, are you doing something? Are you?
Can you hear
I just feel like that's all we're hearing right now.
It might just be going right in your ears. Not bad.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, they've beat 2 very bad teams. They're going to beat Colorado State this weekend and, have 3 wins and, they're the second.
And they might shoot up to the top 10 in the country after that Colorado State win.
Oh,
with the way they're talked about, with how good they are.
No, they probably won't. But, I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do. If they're a good team, they're doing what they're supposed to do and just beating the shit out of bad teams. I mean, but their first real test isn't. I think they still got like 3 more weeks until they get a 3.
I think they have Colorado State then Oregon.
It's Oregon.
Oh, do they?
And then USC.
Yeah, so if they got 2 back-to-back games, like I don't think they have to win those 2, but they can't get blown out when they play the 2 better teams in their. And
TCU might not be a horrible team, but they are definitely depleted. They are not the same Texas Christian team that went to the national championship game. But I mean, yeah, I guess that was a decent win, but. Beating the brakes off Nebraska does nothing for me. Oklahoma went 6-7 last year and beat the brakes off Nebraska in Lincoln.
Yeah, and talking about another game, how about Texas A&M Miami?
That's one I picked that one.
That was a good call.
Miami
yeah.
4.5.
Yeah, those Aggies went in. They had a lead early in the game. In typical Aggie fashion, they think they're great. They lose their mind and they can't win a football game in a stadium that isn't even Miami Stadium. They play in the NFL stadium. I agree with Brandon. I refuse to call that their actual home stadium. That is just a neutral site for them because it's a half-empty stadium. No home field advantage other than it's humid, but it's humid in College Station too. I'm so upset. Couldn't happen to a better program for them to lose against Miami. Again, I wish it would have ended in a loss for both of them.
I was about to say the same thing. I picked Miami plus 4.5 just because A&M is A&M. That was literally the only thing behind that. They're one of a kind bad with the shit that they pull off and what they're capable of doing with when it comes to losing and stuff like that. So that's why I picked Miami. But if there was an outcome where both teams could lose that game, that would have been the best possible outcome. Unfortunately, they don't do that.
A&M is just the most overhyped team every year. Their defense got torched by a quarterback that struggled in week 1. I don't know. They can keep paying for all those defensive linemen because it doesn't really seem like it's helping. I guess they were bad at stopping the run. I think they only allowed like 70-something yards, maybe. I'd have to look at the box score again, but A&M is garbage. And at some point, those kids are going to notice that. And those donors are going to stop putting up so much money to pay for those kids. Because they can't fire Jimbo Fisher. Even if they fire him this year, they still owe him like $75 million.
Which is insane to if you really think about how long he's been there.
That agent's 3% must be nice. His guy can't get fired.
Yeah. No, that's the way to set up a contract, right? No matter how bad you perform, they can't get rid of you. So that one was good. Overall, other than that, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot. There were some decent games, but nothing too crazy. This week is like the final tune-up week, basically, of before you really get a lot of great matchups. I mean, when you look at Week 3 coming up here, I mean, obviously you got our game, but I mean, Georgia,
pretty boring.
Georgia, South Carolina. Hopefully Spencer Rattler and the boys, Beamer can get the boys rolling and make some noise. But
Spencer Rattler's not playing bad, but his offensive line, not great.
That poor guy's going to be running for his life.
I thought for a second Clemson was going to, screw around and play a very competitive game all the way through with Charleston Southern or whatever. It was that game was like 17 up or something. 21-17 Clemson, something really close, and then left for the stadium and come back. Saw they ended up winning 66-17, but I don't know. I feel like the game being 17 all or whatever it was at some point, and then even if you pull away to win in dominating fashion, if I'm a Clemson fan, I still don't love it. I don't think.
Oh no.
I wouldn't think so either.
There's the what's it called? The ACC is not great. The Pac-12 is about to go extinct and probably has the best group of teams when you just compare them to the rest of the Power 5 conferences. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting. But yeah, this weekend of college football is not great. But it'll still be fun because it's college football.
The Pac-12 is so back for this year.
For this year and never again. Whoever hired that commissioner should fire themselves because he put that conference to the shitter.
Well, all I got to say is all those presidents signed off on his hire, or the majority did anyway. So
that's tough.
That's tough. I mean, that's kind of on you, bud. Mm-hmm. On everyone.
How do you guys feel about the Tulsa game? A little preview here on the live stream. You're going to be there.
Yeah, I might not end up going because the tickets are like $100 a piece right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You got to be able to find something cheaper for that. Are you for real?
They were $150 a couple of days ago, but yeah, we're
sorry. Someone brought up a good topic, but we can finish this topic.
No,
Michigan State firing Mel Tucker.
Yeah,
got that pain out of our way.
Yeah, I mean he's gone for better or worse. I don't really know exactly. I haven't read a whole lot, but obviously there's lawsuits going on.
Mm-hmm.
Does By Job think about coming home? Well, not really home, but
that's the only reason I brought it up. Like maybe there's a chance because they're going to get rid of basically that entire staff. No way they keep anyone that's on that staff right now, at least after the season.
Yeah, I mean, technically he hasn't been officially fired. He's on administrative leave, and then they're going to wait for the investigation to conclude. But
what did he do? Can you guys fill me in on this? I saw he got fired. And I saw it was
he was accused of sexual harassment.
Yeah. Do you guys know? I don't know what he did. I don't know.
No.
I haven't.
I don't know shit about what's going on. I do know that opens the door for a couple of prospects that he stole from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And closes the door for Stone probably going there. I know he loved it. I think if there was going to be another school that was going to end up getting him away from Oklahoma, would have been them. If he would have kept the staff together.
Yeah. So anyway, let's talk.
That's something. That'll do it.
Let's talk that OU Tulsa. I mean, Tulsa in their first game played Arkansas Pine Bluff. So basically Union High School. And they won 52-7, I think. They got blown out by Washington, but Washington's one of the better teams in the country. What does Oklahoma do? I think Oklahoma goes in and doesn't let them hardly score at all, allows 10 points, and I think they put up at least 42. I would hope at least 42 points.
I think you got to hang at least half 100 on Tulsa.
Yeah.
Unless they, if they, no, I think you got to hang half 100 on Tulsa. I'd like to see like a 52-7 game, 52-10, whatever. I think the line's OU at 26.5.
That's it. Yeah.
I saw.
ESPN has it at 27.
27. Okay.
Either way, I mean, they had Washington at 34.5. I think Oklahoma could actually win by 30 in that game.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind either. I think defensively they're going to play another sound game. They should, at least against Tulsa. And yeah, you got to see more out of the offense, because Tulsa is not as good of a team as Southern Methodist. They're going to be better than Arkansas State, but they're not going to be very good either. The schedule sets up nicely for Oklahoma going into that Texas game, I think, because you should beat the brakes off of Tulsa this week. It's a 3-0. Then you hit the road to Cincinnati, I think. Is that week 4? And that's another game you should win. And you should win, quite comfortably. And then you finally have that big test against Texas. So you should be feeling good. You should be, rolling 4-0. We'll see.
Is Iowa State between Texas?
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah. But either way, that's still Iowa State's another team you should win. So you should
just give them a cell phone with FanDuel on it. You'll get them all suspended. Those guys can't stop gambling.
Yep. Oh, I know. Those people up in Iowa, they love to gamble, I guess, huh? So.
Yep, guess so.
So, should be a pretty good game. As far as if you're an Oklahoma fan, it should be basically a home game for Oklahoma. Sold out. So, should be a good outing, and it's beautiful weather.
Sean Kingston's going to be there.
What?
I think
Why?
so. They have like a concert or something.
Well, Sean Kingston? You have to go now.
I have to go now.
I'll look up again to confirm.
There's no way you can miss Sean Kingston. I'll be singing about beautiful girls and stuff.
Yeah.
Way too beautiful girls.
Way too beautiful girls. Yeah, that's why it's never gonna work.
Oh yeah, no, I remember when he was all the rage. All with the.
I think Sean Kingston once wrecked a jet ski. Because I thought that.
I believe he did
back in the day.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's hard to do.
Yeah.
To wreck a jet ski.
Along with tailgating and other festivities, singer Sean Kingston will be performing for pregame events. His concert begins at 1 p.m. at Chapman Commons.
Brum, you have to be there.
I guess I do. That's the reason why I have to go.
And then you can you get there early enough to find Sean Kingston and have him get autographs for everybody on the show here?
I might be able to swing that. I'll just walk up and say, "Do you know Two Plane Sports?" If not, subscribe.
If you can get Sean Kingston to subscribe, we will take off.
Yeah, just like everyone else that's watching this, definitely should subscribe. Over 100 of you. But that's all I've got. Unless you guys have anything else, or obviously we got. Hopefully, recruiting continues to go well, but we got to start turning the page to 2025.
I know.
Let's focus on the football season we're currently at, boys. That is happening. That is we are in the heart of it.
No. We talk about it all the time. The most important football players are the ones that might be on the team, not the ones that are on the team.
I'm just saying we are in the middle of a season right now. I think before we turn the page to 2025,
I get what you're saying.
We have real games happening.
I agree, but
with real life Sooners, not hypothetical Sooners.
Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, can't wait to recruit 2029. I'm probably.
Do you guys think we need to play Jeff Levy, Jay Amor? That was a hot topic of debate Saturday amongst some of the local junks in O'Connell's.
Jackson
Moore?
Arnold, JA.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yeah. Play him more.
I don't think
Not
so.
really.
No.
I don't either. I think Dylan Gabriel gives you the best chance to win right now. I think he sees the field the best. I think he is, he's the most experienced, all that stuff. But I mean, I'm just saying there were ramblings. People were wanting JA in there, but that is, I think, as you should expect in a game that you win, and don't score as many points as you may have anticipated scoring.
Well, I do think when we talked about it earlier, it might have been, I guess it was before you got on, they should let him throw the ball every once in a while, because now the teams can just prepare to stop the run when he comes
They're
in.
saving something for that. That to me, I think is so easy, right? Because if they keep, and again, I think that's where the schedule favors up nicely. If you keep running that Jackson Arnold 4th and 1, 4th and 2, just quarterback snap, run right at the middle, I wouldn't change it at all. Even the first couple times against Texas, I'd run that. Then the third or fourth time against UT, especially in a competitive game, if it's 4th and 1, that's when you bust it out and have them do, a Tebow jump pass or take one step in, then drop back and just throw a bomb because somebody's going to be wide open. You have to save whatever you really have planned for that until you need it.
First step back.
It
would be a first step forward, then 2 steps back.
Yeah. So, no, Oklahoma's going to be fine. They're going to keep figuring it out. Defense is much improved. Dylan Gabriel threw 4 touchdowns, and we're giving him a hard time about it. So
I think the problem is he only had like 7.5 yards of completion, but that is something that might not be on him. I don't know, what the play calls look like and how many times we had dudes running down the field or if they were open or anything like that. But
yeah, he
big holes in zone coverage.
Yeah. So that's all I've got. We'll be releasing a video towards the end of this week. And if you hadn't already, only one of you decided to subscribe.
Come on.
Now we're at 81 remaining to 6,000. So if you made it this far, be sure to like, subscribe, turn that notification bell on so you know when we post, when we go live. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. We'll catch you guys next time.